there. I'm Heather Plett, and I am very pleased to introduce you to Julie Daley, who many of you, I think, know and love already online as much as I do. Julie is one of those people who just is incredibly wise, but at the same time, she just exudes this grace and spirit about her that draws you in from her words to her presence, whatever it is. And so I am just thrilled and delighted to have you here with us today, Julie.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
To start with, as you know, I'm doing this little series that I'm calling Letting Go of the Ground. And really, it's about the whole transformative process of entering into a new space where you have to let go of the past and be prepared for the future, kind of like the caterpillar entering the chrysalis stage. And so, to start with, Julie, I'd just like to invite you to tell us some story of when you had to learn lessons in letting go of the ground.
Great. It's an interesting place, and the first thing that comes to mind for me as you ask the question is whether it's voluntarily letting go or whether the ground's pulled out from underneath you. Mm-hmm. And I've had both times in my life that have been very. I would say when the ground is pulled out from underneath me, and I didn't know it was coming, it was extremely intense, extremely disorienting. Let me stop and just ask you, is there a certain direction that more answers your question?
Not really. I'd like you to pick your own direction because I'm gathering very different kinds of stories, and some people it's about adapting to that time when they had no choice, and other people it's about choosing to step into that space. So I'd say pick your own story.
Okay. There's a short snippet of one of the stories is when my husband died suddenly at 4 a.m. in front of my younger daughter and I. It probably, time gets sort of funny when you're experiencing something like that, but it probably was 2 to 3 minutes that he was in a great amount of distress and discomfort. And after he died, I did CPR for about 30 minutes. It took that long for the paramedics to get there. It was clear there was no response from him as I did that. My daughter was running around on the phone with, the dispatch and trying to get the dogs locked up. And it was very surreal. It was as if I was very aware and yet very in control of what I was doing. I knew what I had to do, and yet not there. Mm-hmm. And I would say maybe a day or two after that moment, I suddenly felt, I got enough sense of where I was to realize I felt like I was Dorothy in Oz. Excuse me, and I had no ruby slippers to bring me back. And it was such an amazing feeling to look around at my life and the people in it that I knew, my home, my job, which I didn't go back to for a while. And everything looked the same, and yet everything was different. Mm-hmm. And it would never go back. And that disconnection from what was, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like, I do. It was like who I thought I was had totally changed. I didn't know anymore who I was because I had identified myself so strongly after 21 years of marriage with my husband. I got married very young. We were very much in love. And suddenly, it's like, well, I don't know who I am. I don't know how to get back. There's no place to get back to. If everything I know looks the same, and I'm completely different, what does that mean? And I didn't know for a long time what to trust in. I didn't trust in anything. I didn't know. The only thing I could feel was I could feel him. I could feel him in a very different way. And of course my children were there and my family was there. So that's the first experience. The second experience of having the ground ripped out from underneath me was when my grandson was born, and at about 12 hours old, they discovered him blue in the nursery, revived him, found out he had pulmonary atresia, where the pulmonary valve is mangled and blocked. Mm. So basically he was dying. And they put him on life support, and they went to open it with a catheter, and they slipped and punctured his heart. Mm. And they came out and said they didn't think that he'd survive, but they were going to try to get him onto something called ECMO. And they managed to with 2 seconds to spare. And they opened up his chest, repaired his heart, left the hole in the valve, and then put him into ICU. Well, 2 days later, he developed a brain hemorrhage. And they couldn't close his chest because it was so swollen to turn him over to operate on the hemorrhage. And so for 2 weeks, we were with him, we were singing to him, reading him stories. And I just was in this place of, I don't know what to do. I'm of no service because all I can think about is how hard his life is going to be, or what it's going to be like for my daughter if he dies. So I went into the chapel, I shut the door, and I just said, okay, I'm not leaving until I have something to stand on. Because right now, I am of service to nobody. And I just prayed, and I listened. And I don't know how long I was in there, but at one point I heard this voice just say, Lucas is exactly as Lucas is. And the voice, it was like not only the sound of the voice, but the feeling of it and the words themselves dropped me into this place of trust. Mm-hmm. And it's so deeply into the moment that it all made sense. It's like all I have to be with is now. That's all that there really is. And Lucas is as Lucas is. And I left the chapel, I went back into ICU, and I sat with him, and I was able to be with this angel, this beautiful baby that was about 10 days old on a full bed, taking up half of ICU, because that's all the machines he needed. He hadn't even been held yet by his mom. And I could be with him, and I could be with my daughter, and I could be in the space to just be of service. And I can't tell you what it was that was, it was like I was stepping on something, a ground as you call it, but yet it was this invisible ground. Mm-hmm. And we felt so held. And he was there for 3 months, multiple surgeries, 20 surgeries in his first year. He's 10 now. He's vibrant. He's compromised, but a beautiful being. And I still know that that is holding me.
Are you ready to fly?